Right, so here's some information about how we're going to view pages in our Excel spreadsheet and how we're going to set up printing of that spreadsheet. So at the moment, I'm in the View menu, and you can see I'm looking at my page in normal view, and there's a dotted line over here, which indicates where the page is going to break. And there's a dotted line at the bottom. So at the moment, this is the bottom and the side of an A4 page, which I have already in my spreadsheet. So if I, for example, just fill this up with some data here, and I fill that up with some data. Now you'll see here there's a whole lot of a hash signs, and that's because my column isn't wide enough. So if I go and position my cursor between the two columns and I double click, it'll make it wide enough. So now I can see all of that data. Okay, so now I've got some information entered here which goes over the page. So I have more than one page at the moment, and I have more than one page wide at the moment as well. Okay, so I can see where my page is going to break with those dotted lines over there. The second view of my page, which I can have, is called Page Break Preview. And if I look at that, it shows me page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, and how that's going to look. The third one is called Page Layout View. So Page Layout View is going to show me how this is actually going to print. And you can see here, I have access to my headers and my footer as well, and with the three spaces that are available to me to enter things in. So I can actually just click in that and go and type my name or the date or whatever other information I want. Okay, to get the date, I can just come up here and say current date, and to get, for example, the page number, I can say page number, and that will automatically enter that information in for me. With an automatic date, if you enter an automatic date and you look at this page tomorrow, that will have changed. So it's not actually entered that information, it's entered a code in there. Great. So those are the three different ways that I can view that page. And then there's an option for a custom view, which we won't worry about. Okay, then the next thing that we can do is, in terms of viewing the page, is decide whether we want the rulers at the top. That's always a good idea. Whether we want grid lines to be displayed, whether we want the formula bar, so the formula bar comes at the top there, and whether we want headings on the columns to tell us what the column names are. All of those are good things, and I would recommend while you're working to be working in normal view. So all of those things should be on, and you should be able to see what's going on. You can see in the normal view you don't get a ruler, however. Okay, you can then zoom in and out. This only affects how you see the thing on the screen. You can look at your spreadsheet in a new window. You can arrange all the different spreadsheets to look at them in a certain way. This one's probably the most useful here, and that's called freeze panes. They seldom ask you to do that, but if I wanted it so that A was frozen, or that so I can choose this option here, freeze the first column, and then when I scroll, you can see that first column stays where it is, and it doesn't scroll along with the rest of the spreadsheet. So that's a useful one. I can split things, I can hide things. So the rest of those I'm not really going to worry too much about. Page layout. Okay, so in page layout, I have a number of other options. I can worry about themes if I want to, but I'm not going to. margins. This is where I can set up my margins, and I can make custom margins to be any size. Now this refers to the margins when I'm printing out. Okay, so I can change those margins. I can change the orientation between portrait and landscape. So remember, portraits when it's up on its end, so that you could draw a portrait of a person in there. You could draw their face and their neck, which is a long object, so you need the paper that way up. If you were drawing a landscape picture with mountains and the sun and whatever, sea, then you want to turn your paper around and put it this way. So that's what those two different orientations are talking about. So if I change this to landscape, you should see that the page now ends to the right. So now I have minimized the number of pages I need, and things are going to fit in there a little bit better. I'm going to make these all fit. There we go. That looks good. Okay, the size of my page. So this is whether it's going to be A4 or letter size. So I can change the size of the page there. Print area. Now, if I'm just asked to print a certain area of the page, I can highlight that area and I can say set a print area. Now, if I go to print preview now, the only part of the spreadsheet which will print out will be that small piece. Okay, the rest of it won't get printed. So if I just want to print a portion of the page, I can highlight that area and set a print area. If I want to get rid of that print area, I can say clear print area, and you can see that black line goes away. So that's a useful one. I can force a break. So say I want the break to come at the end of October. At the moment, it's just under the 1st of November. I think I need to click that one and say insert a page break. And that should, oh no, that put it in the wrong place. Okay, so I want to remove that page break and I want to insert the page break here. So it inserts it above. So you can see that page break has been moved to where I've asked for it to go. So that's another thing that you can do. You can put a background, you can print the titles. We're not going to worry about that. Okay, this is a very important section, scale to fit. In the exam, you will more than likely be asked to make sure that your spreadsheet prints on 1 page wide. So where next to where it says width, leave this 1 page. Leave the height as automatic unless you're asked to print the spreadsheet on 1 page, in which case you can change that as well to 1 page. Now, what's going to happen if I go and show you my view now, page layout view. Okay, didn't like my frozen panes. So my page layout view has now squished everything onto 1 page. But what that means is, if I zoom out, what that means is everything's got really tiny, and these little headings over here are really, really tiny. Okay, and they've done that because they've squished the whole thing into 1 page. That is not what the exam wants. The examiner won't be able to read your information. It will lose you marks. So read very carefully what you're being asked to do. You won't be asked to print out a spreadsheet so that it is unreadable. It has to be readable for the examiner. So if it says 1 page wide, just change the width and not the height scaling like that. Okay, so now it's 1 page wide, everything fits in there nicely, but it flows over onto 2 pages, so that's all good. Okay, so that's how you use that. Over here, you have the settings for the grid lines. So the grid lines are these gray lines, whether you want to view them on your screen and whether you want them to print out. So if you click that, it'll print those little gray lines when you do your printout. they do very often ask you to print out the headings. So at the moment you've got the headings here, the numbers and the letters. Okay, you've got the numbers and the letters, the headings on your spreadsheet because you need them. If you want them to print out as well, you tick that box. And what will then happen is the letters and the numbers will print out in your printout when you print this document. Okay. Right. Something else then. Formulas. There's a button here which says show formulas. So if you have typed, let me just go back to a normal view. If I've typed, say, let's just put some numbers in there. And I type a formula in here. And there I get my result. Now I want to show the examiner the calculation that I've done. So I go to that formulas menu and I say show formulas. And instead of having the result in that cell, I now have the function that I wrote in that cell. Okay. So I want to resize these, and you can see it's resized everything, which is a bit of a problem because things aren't going to fit in the width of the page anymore. So I'm going to resize all of those now that I'm showing my formulas. And now when I print out, it's going to print out with that information in there. So let me just copy that down so we've got something. There we go. In all of the cells. Okay. So let's go and see how we're going to print now. I'm going to go File and Print. Now in the exam, you're going to go and choose the printer which is in the room with you, and you are going to print out onto that printer so that it comes out of the printer and it can be sent off to go and be marked. When you are printing to send it to somebody else online, you're going to go and choose the option that says Print to File. And what the Print to File option is going to do for you no, sorry, let's try Microsoft Print to PDF. That'll be better. Okay, the Print to File might give us some strange sort of action. You can see it's still printing on one page wide, and there's two pages, page 1 and page 2, that it's going to print out as well, and you can do all your printing settings over here. So what margins you're going to use, which way up the paper is, etc., etc. So you can preview your picture here. You can see it's got those headings on, the A, B, C, D, and the 1, 2, 3, 4. It's showing the formulas. And now, once I've chosen my printer, if I say print, what it'll do for me is ask me where I want to save it. Okay, in the exam, you want to send it to the printer, let it come out the printer, no problem. What we're doing here is if I want to save this so that I can send it to somebody else. So it's going to save it as a PDF document, and it's going to save it exactly as it would look if it had come out of the printer. So I'm going to give it a name and save it over there. Okay, now to turn those formulas off, I simply click that button, the formulas go away, it goes back to its previous formatting, and now I need to resize those. Remember that I always need to be able to see everything. Okay, that's very important. So I go back to how it was, and now I could print it again in so that I've got the results showing as well. And in the exam, you'll be asked to do both of those things. Okay, so that's how to set up your page for printing. Hope that makes it that clearer.